So we're not going to talk a whole lot about venture capitalists or borrowing money on your mortgage or your credit cards, and that leaves us with investors and bank loans. And we have a whole section of this course on bank loans, and we're going to go into that now. The first thing we've already talked about is the danger of signing personal guarantees. If you incorporate and you ask for a loan for your corporation, if the bank gives you a loan for your corporation, they're going to require you, as the primary shareholder of the corporation, to sign a personal guarantee. And they may also ask for other personal guarantees, like one from your parents. Not recommended that you do that. The next thing that I've already talked about briefly is the sacred trinity of secured financing, and this will show up on a test. You need to know the three things that are required in order to be a properly perfected secured creditor and to beat the interests of the bankruptcy trustee if it ends up there's a bankruptcy. So here we go again. The first thing that you have to have is a written and signed promissory note indicating that there is a debt or a loan. The second thing that you have to have is a written and signed security agreement. That is a contract between the borrower and the lender that says borrower is pledging a certain asset or a number of assets as collateral for the loan. And the third thing is a UCC-1 financing statement recorded with the Secretary of State's office. Okay, what's UCC? UCC is the Uniform Commercial Code. We had a problem historically with people who were doing business across state lines, and the laws that regulated businesses and banking, financing, they were different from one state to the next, and it made it very confusing and very difficult for business owners to comply with the law. The law varied from state to state. And so to help resolve this problem, they said, let's get together a committee of representatives of the various states, and let's come up with some business and banking laws that everybody can agree on, and go back and ask the different state legislatures to adopt a uniform set of commercial codes, a uniform set of business and banking laws. So they formed a committee and they came up with a Uniform Commercial Code. And in the Uniform Commercial Code is this idea that if you want to be a properly perfected secured creditor, you need a promissory note, a security agreement, and then you need to give notice to the world that, hey, don't loan money to Joe on that computer server because he's already borrowed money on that and pledged it as collateral to somebody else, in this case, Joe's dad. So the third thing that's required to be a properly perfected secured creditor is to record a little half-page or one-page document with the Secretary of State's office in the state where the loan took place. It says, hey, Joe pledged this particular computer server as collateral for the loan that he got from his dad. And that would make Joe's dad a properly perfected secured creditor. So that is the sacred trinity of secured financing. Now, another thing about borrowing money from a bank to start a business, and that is that a lot of times what they will require you to do is they will require you to pledge all of the assets of your business as collateral for that startup loan. So they may loan you $100,000 and you may put $250,000 worth of assets into that business, and the bank is saying, we want all $250,000 worth of the assets of that business pledged as collateral for the loan. And in your printed materials, you will see a sample of the language that a bank uses for what it calls an all-inclusive security agreement, which means in exchange for us loaning you money to start your business or to run your business, we are taking from you a pledge as collateral for the loan everything that business owns, everything, all the profits, the accounts receivable, the goodwill, the trade name, the trademark, the copyrights, if you have any of those, any patents or inventions you have, the fixtures, the inventory, the equipment, everything. So that's okay if that's the only way you can get the loan. But remember this, if you borrow $100,000 from the bank and you pledge as collateral for that everything the business owns, which may be worth $250,000 or $1 million, and 6 months or a year in you run short of capital and you need to go back to the well and borrow some more money, if you go back to that bank, the first thing they're going to say is, well, do you have any additional collateral? Well, no, I pledged all the collateral of the business in order to get the first loan. Well, I'm sorry, if you don't have any additional collateral, we're not going to loan you any more money. So if you do have $1 million worth of assets in your company and the bank is asking you to do an all-inclusive security agreement and pledge all of the assets of the business as collateral for a $100,000 loan, you may want to go back to that bank and renegotiate and say, look, I'll give you all the tractors. That's $200,000 or $300,000 worth of stuff. I'll pledge all the tractors as collateral for the loan, but I'm not going to pledge everything, because what if something goes wrong and I need to borrow some more money later on? So just understand that if you go to the well, the bank, and you borrow money and you give them an all-inclusive security agreement pledging virtually all the assets of your business as collateral, you're done. The well is dry. You won't be able to get any more money from them. So if you are going to pledge it all-inclusive, borrow as much money as you possibly can, even more than you think you're going to need, because you almost always end up needing way more money than you think you're going to need. There's always unexpected surprise costs, government regulations, and all kinds of unexpected things that happen that always cost more than you think it's going to cost. So borrow, if you're going to give the bank an all-inclusive security agreement, borrow as much money as you can possibly get. You can always give it back to the bank if it turns out you don't need it. Now, that brings us to a very important point. Ironically, when you need the money the most and you're starting up, the bank probably won't loan it to you. But once your business becomes successful and you are clearly profitable and there's a steady stream of income coming in, all of a sudden your banker just becomes your best friend. He'll greet you by name at the door when you come in the bank, put his arm, before the pandemic anyway, he'd put his arm around your shoulder or shake hands with you, and he'd say things like, you know, you've only got 6 of those big earth movers. They're like $100,000 a piece. If you had 1 or 2 more of those, you could be making so much more money. We'd love to loan you a couple of $100,000 more, and you could buy a couple extra tractors and you could make even more money. Well, if you really could make more money and you want to make more money, you want those tractors, maybe you should borrow the money. But the banker's problem is he has a product to sell. And if he doesn't sell that product, he doesn't make any money. And his product is money, loans. And so if he knows for sure that you're a good credit risk and you'll be able to repay the loan, he wants to loan you money. And so they're just your best friend, offering to pay you money and feeling like friends and all that. But in the back of your mind as a business owner, you have got to always remember that that banker is not really your friend. Don't borrow money from him when you don't need it. And more importantly, always remember that if your business gets into trouble and it looks like you're not going to make it, you're not going to be able to repay the loan, and that banker's worrying about losing his job because you may not be able to repay the loan, that banker will cut your financial throat and leave you out in the street to bleed out in a heartbeat. He will cut your throat. And the way they do that is they cut off your credit and they force you to shut the doors of your business. So another thing that shows up in this course on a test is a contract term in banking that is called the CrossCollateralization Clause. The CrossCollateralization Clause. And here's the way that works. When you apply for a business loan at a bank, the bank will often say, well, if we loan you this money, we'd like you to do a favor for us. We can't require you to do this because that might be a violation of the law, but we're asking. if we loan you the money, will you keep your primary business bank account at our bank? That'll help you and it'll help us too. You know, you were doing your banking here, we'll make a little bit of money on the banking fees and stuff, but also we'll be able to track how much money you have coming in and how much money you're going out and what kind of credit risk you are on the loan that we make to you. So would you keep your main business bank account here at our bank if we loan you the money? And you say, well, okay. So you put your main business banking account at the same bank where you have a big loan. And you don't notice this, like almost nobody, but almost everybody in this class, you have already signed, when you signed that little card to open a bank account at almost any bank in the country, there's some fine print in the contract, in the signature card and all that fine print. There's a little clause in all of the boilerplate. It's called the CrossCollateralization Clause.